A divorce can be a nightmare for everyone, including the children. But there are things you can do to help them feel safe and loved. Find out how right now on Keeping Kids Healthy. Hello, I'm Dr. Winnie King, and I'm here in the lobby of the Children's Hospital at Montefiore, New York City. So you might hear some noise in the background. Divorce happens to so many marriages, 50% at last count. And because it's so painful for the couples who are going through it, it's easy to forget how devastating it is for the children. But you can't let yourself forget, because their well-being depends on their parents' sensitivity and support. Charlotte and Tom Bloom, divorced parents from the Chicago area, shared their story with us.
We were married in 1990 and Sam was born in 1993. So we had had 3 years of just being us, and I worked retail and he was a pilot. We were able to do all sorts of fun things. When we had Samantha, she was just adorable from the very beginning. And I don't think that he was quite ready to experience what he felt and realize how excited he would be about having her. Tom was definitely more ready for Michelle because he wanted to have them both close together, and in his mind we were going to have 2 children and they were going to be the same ages apart as he and his brothers, and he had it all set up. They're both very independent. Sam from the very beginning was very strong and independent and very emotional. Michelle is very laid back. She's a peacekeeper, takes things in stride. She's just easygoing.
I have 2 daughters, Samantha the oldest, and then Michelle. They're 9 and 12 presently, and given the situation that we're in right now, it's about as good as can be expected. I'm very, very lucky to have both of them. So there you go. The kids are much more, I think, in tune as to actually what's going on, or much smarter to it than what the parents actually think. They can hear all the conversations. They got ears, they have intuition, but they understand that when their parents are upset, I think they've got a pretty good idea as to why.
Samantha noticed. Michelle was not so much. But what we said was that Daddy's going to be sleeping in the basement because we're not getting along very well as husband and wife. And so he's going to stay down there for a while we work out our relationship, because people don't always get along.
When your parents fight, it's just the worst feeling you could ever have. It's not fun at all. It's just really, it makes you sad and it makes you angry. And then you're just sitting there and you're just feeling like you're all alone. It's just horrible.
Preparing to tell the girls about, the fact that, Mom and Dad are going to get a divorce was the hardest conversation I've ever had. I thought my oldest daughter, Sam, would be much more emotional about it. I'm not saying that she wasn't emotional, because, I remember seeing it in her eyes when I said that, Mom and Dad are going to get a divorce. Her eyes get big, and they, and she takes like this big swallow that, goes all the way down to St. Louis.
They sat us down, they had a family meeting at the kitchen table, and they said, your dad is going to be moving out. And I said, why? And they said, because we're going to be getting a divorce. And I was a little confused, but then I realized, oh, okay. And I cried in my room for a little while. Sometimes I worry about my mom, because she probably was just as shocked as I was. She knew about it, of course, but she's probably just as shocked that they were going to get a divorce.
You go through periods of moments when you think, it's okay if I'm just really wonderful. He's going to love me, and it's not going to happen. He's just in a really bad place right now, and it's all going to be okay. I can make it through this, and I'm gonna help to make the other person happy. and you go through that period of denial. And then the next day you wake up and you're sobbing, or you so hard you can't hardly speak. And you wonder how you're going to get up and wash your face and make your children breakfast without them worrying about you.
Well, when we got married in 1990, so I'm 24 years old, you know, to 38, you know, I mean, those are the salad days, the good, this is when things should be going really, really, really well, and it ends up in, you have 14 years, it ends up in a failure.
Well, with feelings like that to deal with, parents usually have to help themselves before they can help their kids through a divorce. And that often means working through some difficult emotions.
There's one piece of advice that everybody gives parents that's almost impossible for them to follow. It's don't get angry. I mean, it's impossible to get a divorce without anger. You're angry because you had a dream and it didn't work. You're angry because he wasn't the man that you really wanted him to be. All of that is very hard. And all the sages around you keep saying, don't be angry, don't be angry. Well, let them try it.
In the last car, you did the full acceleration.
Yeah, Dad always did like the last car in the roller coaster.
Yeah.
All parents know that the key issue is how they get along is going to be the primary factor in how their kids deal with a divorce. They've been told this again and again and again, but that is the most difficult emotional issue.
Okay, ladybugs, are y'all ready? Okay, go ahead and kiss you.
It's actually putting that anger behind them and getting the kid to see that their parents can get along.
What time are y'all leaving tomorrow?
And we leave at 4:30 in the a.m. for Alabama.
People started with the notion that divorce wasn't going to affect children at all. Then they began to see the children were upset and that they weren't doing so well in school and that they were complaining and they were angry or they were frightened. Sometimes you see with a child who's had trouble that they feel that that led to the divorce.
A key reason why kids blame themselves is because the unconscious hope is that if they are to blame, then they can also fix it. And a little bit like the way that kids like to fantasize that they're superheroes. I mean, this is a different kind of superhero, a superhero that doesn't leap buildings in a single bound, but that can bring mommy and daddy back together again.
I would just wish that they would get back together so that we wouldn't have to switch houses, so that we wouldn't have to have half our stuff here and half our stuff there.
It's foolish to minimize the effects on a child's growing up in a divorced, remarried family or a divorced, not remarried family. The divorced family is not just the period of the divorce, that it's a whole different family from the intact family. It's growing up differently, and negotiating your way back and forth from one home to the other is not just like visiting grandma on Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever. It's having a split life.
Most of my really close friends' parents aren't divorced at all, so I just feel like they don't understand.
My friend, she will ask too many questions about it, and I feel like she's just invading my personal space.
All your shoes, all that stuff's going to go over so you can pack that for camp.
So when do you tell your child you're going to get a divorce?
Children need to be told before it happens. The worst thing for a child is the child would wake up in the morning and discover that one parent had left the household. They never forgot that. With a school-age child, I would tell them 5 to 7 days ahead, so they have a chance to process it, to think about it, to come back to ask you questions. But with a teenager, you want to talk with them about it for several weeks or even more than that. And it's very important that the parents do it together if they can.
What do kids understand at different ages, and how do they react?
In preschool kids, they figure with irrefutable logic that if one parent can leave another, why can't both parents leave me? And the symptom they show most is of being afraid to go to sleep at night because they worry, when I wake up, will there be anybody there? When they get to 6 and 7, 8, they begin to miss their father, and they wonder, did he leave me because he didn't care about me? The sense of being left is and the sadness is typical. With the earliest grades, first, second, and third grades, it's hard for these kids to concentrate. I had one little boy who kept his jacket on in the summer in California. And his teacher said, "What is this?" And he, "You know, it's warm." He said, "I have to be ready to go." "Go where?" "I don't know." So he had a sense that life was uncertain, that when he got home there might not be a home there. By the time you get to fourth and fifth grade, you were also seeing a rising anger, a refusal to be disciplined, challenging the parent, "Who are you to tell me what to do?" Teenagers have now a really different reaction because they now are beginning to identify with their parents, and they're afraid that their relationships won't work because their parents aren't working. And with teenagers, you can see all kinds of behavior. You can see really moving into sexual behavior. One youngster of 14 decided to spend the night with her boyfriend the day she discovered that her father was having an affair with a neighbor. She figured if he could, I can.
The most common sentiment that children express is, "Get me out of the middle." I think if kids want to give one message to their parents, it's, "Don't make me work this out. You guys figure out how to deal with the holidays. Don't get me involved."
Even where parents have worked their hardest, kids will often feel stuck in the middle.
I'll be like, "Sam, can you bring this over to your dad's house and tell him this, this, and this?" Or, "Mimi, can you bring this over to your mom's house and tell her this, this, and this?" And it feels like we're messengers.
Children need a lot of time. They need even more time after a divorce because they've had a hard time. They need somebody who can restore the whole schedule. They need somebody who can sit with them at night when they go to bed and comfort them. They need somebody to talk to. They need really full-time care, and every mother wants to do this. Every parent wants to do this.
Reassuring your children that you will always love them and care for them no matter what will help them deal with the transition.
You want to keep it as positive as you can for the kids without making it fake and Pollyanna. Your father and I love you. We are here, and we will do whatever we can when it comes to you.
We're just trying to cope as good as we can. I think we're doing very, very well. I mean, there's obviously reasons why we got divorced, but in putting the kids as the highest priority and not and concentrating on that, I think it's working out.
I know I have two great parents, and that they may have fought a little bit, but they're still both really awesome.
What's made me feel good about this is that I know I have two supporting parents, and that I'm confident going through house to house and going to school, and that I can do what I want to do, but it's just a little harder.
To make sure your kids feel that way, both parents have to stay close to their children. And for fathers in particular, that's often one of the biggest issues they face. Bob Steen runs a support group for divorced dads. Several of them shared their solutions for staying in their children's lives.
Something that I believe is so important is maintaining connection with our children and having a relationship with them, even if we're not all under one roof. What kind of things do you do that have you maintaining connection with your child?
Cooking dinner, making breakfast together. And at the beginning, I tried to make these extraordinary efforts to compensate. And then I realized compensation isn't what they need. What they need is to have a normal, as normal as possible situation so that they can feel comfortable and feel like this is like everything else. Mom and I cook dinner together, Dad and I cook dinner together.
You talked, Jack, I remember, and it was really an important point about good planning.
Well, I've never been accused of good planning, but in the early years of our separation and divorce, there was no plan. Everything was hodgepodge until finally I decided, and my ex-wife decided, we have to really get down to it, especially when it came to holidays and that type of thing. And we had it down pat. You know, it's like you do Thanksgiving and I'll do Christmas, and that's what eventually led to actually more harmony with my ex-wife and I, and the kids became more relaxed about it.
What kind of things do you do that just release some of that tension as you deal with the issues that you do as a divorced dad?
Let out my feelings, whether it's just scream in the car or sob or whatever, so I'm not holding on to it and burying it.
Feelings? Talking about feelings. For a long time, after spending a weekend with Emma, I would drive her back to her mom's. And when I would come back to the house, the silence was like deafening. And I would get my journal and I would just start writing about what we did. And that was how Sunday night would end, because it was just that absence, that there's something missing from the space.
My daughter and I were extremely close when she was young. As she got into her teenage years, when she started pushing away and the anger started coming up. And for me, that was the hardest part, was how to stay present and not cut off to her in the face of incredible fury that she was putting toward me. And it was agonizing at times. So I just kept hoping that to give her the space to have her anger would allow her at some point to come back. And now she's 18, and we just spent the most beautiful Father's Day I've ever had. So,
if you do, I think, in life, embrace the challenges and find ways to weave your way through the maze, that it somehow does, strengthen us. I think it's true for me, not to just feel defeated and crushed when there are challenges, but to say, I want to make this work. I adore my daughters, and somehow, no matter what, I'm going to stay in their lives, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to love them, and always enjoy my beautiful relationship with them, even if the things are structured differently and we don't all reside under one home any longer.
It's really revealing to hear those fathers talk, and their attitudes will certainly help keep the lines of communication open and what will be a lifelong conversation about the divorce. So now we've heard a lot from the parents, but let's look more closely at what it's like to be a child of divorce, especially where there's shared custody. Here's a video diary made by young Samantha Bloom about what it's like to live in two houses. Take a look through her eyes.
This is my dad's house. That's my room. That one right there. That's Mimi's room. That's my room, the cool one. Let's go in, shall we? My bed I haven't made yet. Bulletin board. Do you like having your own room?
No, it's lonely.
So you like sharing your room?
Yes.
Sadly, I don't.
Here we are. We're on our way to Mom's.
And this is Mom's house. This is Henry, the waddling dog, who likes to eat garbage. Hank, no.
Let's go inside and see what's happening.
There's my sister Mimi on my bed. Say hi, Mimi.
Hi, Mimi.
There's her bed. Really messy, as you can tell.
Part of it's yours.
Okay, Mimi. When your parents first told you that they were getting a divorce, how did you feel?
Surprise.
Surprised. Why were you so surprised?
Well, they just came at me in a weird way.
How weird? What did they say? And how'd they say it?
Michelle, we're getting a divorce. And they said it seriously.
And you call that weird?
To shock, yes.
What's one thing you would change about this?
I would move the houses closer together. I would make us neighbors, so then that way I wouldn't have to walk halfway all across town just to get my shoes, my pair of shoes that I left at one house, or to get my jacket or my wallet or anything.
There it is, through the eyes of a child. Now, what happens when parents remarry? How does everyone get along when there's suddenly a new stepmom or stepdad in their child's life? Well, let's hear how two families in California handled this tricky situation.
My name's Jan, and I'm married to Larry. And Larry used to be married to Cheryl. And Larry and Cheryl had two children, Melanie and Stephen. And I had a daughter from a previous marriage, Annie. And Larry and I had Harley. When I met Larry and married him, he and Cheryl had joint physical custody of the kids, which meant the kids lived with us for a week and lived with Cheryl for a week. I automatically had two more children. I had no idea what I was getting into.
The relationship that I had with Jan was not fabulous at the beginning. It was very strained, very difficult for us to talk. There was, I think, a lot of misunderstandings and anger amongst Larry and Jan and myself when it came to issues of the kids.
Because we co-parented these children, we had to talk to each other all the time. And for the first 2 years, we did not like each other.
It wasn't so much jealousy issues, but it was issues of, I don't know this woman. My children were little, they were 3 and 6, and I was a full-time mom. So, I was the main, care provider for the kids, and then, in steps this new person into their lives.
The tension was so thick when we were together that the kids started to get ill. Melanie would have stomach aches, and Annie couldn't sleep through the night. It was just turmoil all the time. We had no plan. That was really the bottom line. And it was kind of like in denial. Cheryl was in denial that the kids lived with us, and we were in denial that the kids lived with her. And we just, one day we realized that if we really both love these children, we have to stop it.
So we slowly but surely started to pick up the phone and call one another. It's all, stepping out of your own emotional self and doing what's right for the kids.
And the mother's saying, here.
With time, despite their rocky start, Jan and Cheryl actually became friends, and then they became co-workers. Together they started Bonus Families, a nonprofit group that helps parents navigate the tricky waters of divorce.
The key to good ex etiquette is simply using the kids as a criteria for your decision making rather than your personal power struggles with your ex. Your mantra is put your children first. Put your children first.
I had moments to where, yes, I definitely had to check it, and I had to stop before I said something maybe to the kids. But I was always thinking in my brain, well, this isn't going to do them any good, and they're going to get stressed out, and I didn't want that for them.
That extra bit of thought worked, and the two families began to blend into one.
With a new family comes a new life, and it's a lot of work. You all have to communicate, work together to make it work like we did.
Melanie and Harley have a super unique, special relationship. She loves that kid, and they have such a mutual love and respect for each other.
You're gonna beat me this time?
I'm gonna beat you. People are always saying, well, wait, so that's your half-sister? Well, I don't think of them as my half-sister or my half-brother. I mean,
we have the same dad.
Exactly. How does that work out? How are we half? And I don't think of them as my half-brother or sister at all. Like, they're my brother and my sister.
For kids going through a divorce and having new siblings come in, I promise you it does get better. There are some rocky times, but you keep the lines of communication open and it will get better.
Oh! Best out of 3. What'd you get?
I've often talked to women or men who marry people with children and don't particularly care for the children. Step relationships take a long time to build. So you can't expect when this child just comes over to say, "Ooh, God, love that kid." I mean, you might luck out. I did. I lucked out. So I try to tell people to not get discouraged, but also go out of your way. Look for things, manufacture things that you can build a rapport with this child. If you both like baseball, take them to a baseball game. You have to go out of your way. It doesn't develop all by itself. A common question I'm often asked is, how do you handle family get-togethers with divorced parents? Many times people don't want to go to a special occasion because they're so angry they don't think they can deal with the ex-spouse. That's your issue. That's not the child's issue. The child wants you there. The child wants both of his parents there, and that's your job.
When Melanie graduated from high school, we were all there. Larry and Jan and I, we all sat together to root her on. It's very emotional. I'll cry again. You know, to see your kid, you know, walking down that football field, you know, accepting their diploma is a huge accomplishment for the parent. And you just look at them and you go, oh, they're so great. We just sat there, all of us, the whole family, their side and my side, and just said, God, everything we've done has worked.
To understand more about divorce, check out these books written by our guests. What About the Kids? Raising Your Children Before, During, and After Divorce by Judith Wallerstein, and Ex Etiquette for Parents by Jan Blackstone Ford and Cheryl Jupe. You can contact Bonus Families at bonusfamilies.com or call them at 925-516-2681. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Keeping Kids Healthy.
For more information on today's topics, visit keepingkidshealthy.org.